Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh man, I'm here at last. The best time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Hurrdat Media Network.
Kind of funny, last night I was going through comparing my For You page on TikTok with my daughter, Sophia. Our For You pages are so different.
I'm shocked.
I have...
She's 16.
What?
I'm shocked.
Well, but it's not like it's even like mine. It's like my TikTok is taunting me because I have so many workout things like the tonal and I have whatever, Peloton. But then I also have like how to cook the best steak, the best, like all of this stuff that like it's one way or that it wants me to be extremely healthy and then extremely not healthy.
I don't understand the not healthy part. You said eating steak. That to me sounds delicious.
With potatoes and cheese. It sounds delicious. It's all delicious.
You didn't mention the sides.
Well, that's a given.
I'm like, wait a minute. That sounds
macaroni
perfect.
and cheese, heavy cream.
I saw actually one of... Funny you mentioned that again. There was a guy on my FYP that had, it says the dreamy mac and cheese, and he took a whole brick of Velveeta, put it in a casserole dish, a whole pound of penny, whatever, pasta.
Penne.
Whatever.
Penny pasta.
Penny pasta. Tastes like copper. You don't know the difference when you put some cheese on it.
Eat it so fast you don't know the difference. And then a whole stick of butter chopped up and not whipped cream. Buttermilk.
Buttermilk.
And then baked it for like 350 for like 45 minutes. And
Okay, so the keto crew, when you start watching them make the Alfredo sauces, man, they look amazing. Like two whole chunks of cream cheese. Oh my God, looks so good. But speaking of a chunk or a brick of Velveeta, I've done that before. Like, put a whole one in a crock pot.
So
right?
good. Oh, yeah, it's the best.
And then picante sauce and hamburger and some sour
football
cream.
season? Let's
go.
Every Saturday.
Perfect thing. The best one I saw, you said mac and cheese. It was mac and cheese chili. Was a recipe I saw yesterday.
Sounds really good.
Oh my God.
Who else likes taking the cheese from the side of the... Sorry, we'll get on to what we're going to talk about. On the side of the crock pot that's like
crispy,
kind of Bernie Sanders, and you go and scoop it along the edge with the chip, and it just peels off.
That sounds...
awesome.
Absolutely horrifying.
It's awful. It's so awesome.
Total gateway to hell is what it is. It's a total
death
it's so
by
hard.
cheese.
It is. It's so hard to climb back out of that crock pot once you go into that crock pot. It's so hard to get
and
back.
Good luck having
you
a
guys
bowel
are
movement
invited,
in 48 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You better eat some just straight up fiber. Intestinal cleanse.
Interesting. All right. So what we've got here, first off, as you hear, Sasha's here with us, which is always cool. We love when you guys, any of you guys get to drop in. That's always cool. Ooh. But we have a guest on the show today. And interesting thing is a friend of ours found her TikTok. And we got onto her TikTok because it covers a lot of the same stuff that we like to talk about. There's both true crime, there's Hollywood, there's all kinds of good stuff. And so Danielle's on with us from Florida. Hello, Danielle.
Hi, guys.
Hi. I'm sorry for all the cheese talk.
No, it sounds good. I, too, like to take the little crispy cheese off of the... Yeah.
We're vibing over here on cheese.
Cheese vibe.
So we found some of our best friends just like on social media on different platforms and then have them on the show. And next thing you know, they're like a regular on the show. And
so you're a best friend whether you know it or not.
Yes, you are.
Just so you know.
Yay, I'm included.
Okay. So anyway, so tell us a little bit about you and your TikTok and how it got started and how people can find you on TikTok if they want to like cruise it while they're listening along.
Yeah. So I got bored during quarantine, like every one of us, I think was, and I started just by scrolling through TikTok. And one of my friends actually had one of her videos kind of go viral, where she was making like a Spirit of Halloween animatronic for her boyfriend on the cheap. So
what?
She started doing that. Yeah.
I don't know what any of that meant, but geez, your FYP is messed up.
Yeah. So, and she did that and I just got interested in it. And I started, I had a glass of wine one night and I was like, you know what? I'm mad about this Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation. And for whatever reason, people started following me about that.
Okay. Give us a little background on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Just for those that have no idea what's going on.
I know it's hard for me to like not go off on it.
Okay.
So basically Amber Heard in 2016 said that she filed for divorce with Johnny Depp. And she basically said that he had been abusing her. And so, of course, all of Hollywood backing her, the Me Too movement happened, all of that stuff. And then come to find out that she's actually the abuser in the relationship with all these audio recordings that have come out and everything. And you start to look at the court documents, and basically it's a rabbit hole. If you want to follow it, you can find me on TikTok. I've got so many parts about it.
Now, where did they find you on TikTok first?
So I'm very original. I used my last name and first initial. So I'm Dell'Olio D. So at Dell'Olio D is my handle, or Spirit of Dani. Dani is spelled with an I.
Dani. Got it. Interesting part, because we have had a chance to kind of get to know you just a little bit before having you on here, because we want to make sure you weren't a total nut. And so, but your background is like perfect for what you're doing. It was a total accident.
It was a total accident. It's so crazy because I went to university for journalism and criminology. So this is kind of totally up my alley, because the majority of the content I discuss now is true crime, and true crime too, with the Hollywood spin, which is interesting because there's a lot that has happened in that industry that is not right. But yeah, it's very interesting that this kind of fell in my lap.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's cool. Did you have anything you needed?
I just like going back through, I stalked you on TikTok. I'm sorry. But going back through some of the stories that you've covered, I really enjoy the fact that, so for example, the Menendez brothers case really sticks out to me in how you presented it, just because it was I felt the same way. Why aren't people talking about this aspect of the story? Because these people were clearly abused, and no one wants to talk about that.
And watching old clips and stuff and news coverage from 20 years ago, you could say, how were we so blind back then to not realize these kids were terribly abused, mentally abused, and physically.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy how, I guess at the time, you think about it, the media was kind of all we had to go off of. So what they were presenting, obviously we are going to eat up, but now that we have the internet, now we can, they could watch the trial back then, but it was becoming kind of a laughing stock in the actual media with SNL and all of that. But now we can look back and see that no, these boys were definitely abused. You can tell just in the way that they tell their story. So it's just crazy to kind of look back on with 2021 vision,
honestly, you bring up a good point here too, because of the way TV coverage was. That was when it was relatively new, covering the crimes like O.J. Simpson. I remember the dancing Itos. Okay, right. It was this bizarre parody was happening on real TV, so to speak, as reality TV was happening in front of us, and it was just it was bizarre.
It was weird, the
way it was
at the time. It didn't seem bizarre, but now looking at it, it's that was messed up.
That was really messed up, because it changed how everybody thought about everything.
Yeah,
and I can't imagine for the players, the attorneys at that time. They had to be on one side. They were going, "Yeah, this is perfect,"
right?
And the other side are like, "What the? What are we? How can we possibly beat this?"
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. What other cases that you've come across that you've been surprised by things that you've come across?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Because I'm sure there's 1,000.
I guess when I was looking at the Adam Walsh case, that was really crazy to me, because I had grown up, obviously, I have a weird life. I lived my childhood in Jacksonville, Florida, then moved to Canada. Now I'm back living in Orlando, Florida. It's weird. But of course, all these Floridian cases, and we have many because we're Florida, are crazy. And the Adam Walsh case really stuck with me all growing up. I think that was the one for America, where kids stopped coming home, when the street lamps went off and everything, because that was a thing. Kids were just able to run around their neighborhoods and everything. And Adam Walsh kind of his case ended up having to put a stop to that. But what was interesting about that case to me was, I don't think Otis, however you say his name, Toole, murdered him. And I definitely went down the rabbit hole, and there was sightings of Jeffrey Dahmer in that mall that day, which is interesting.
What?
Yeah. So it's crazy. There was a man in army gear that looked just like Dahmer. And the several of the kids that had been in the mall that day that had seen Adam said that they had seen him be approached by this man.
Wow.
So,
I had never heard that before, ever.
I had neither. And what year was that roughly? Wasn't it
88, 87?
Wasn't that around the same time as Danny Gotch?
I think so, yeah.
Because Danny Gotch was a local kid, relatively, regionally, that was in the media. And that was another one of those, the breaking of the innocence, so to speak, of letting your kids run wild.
Yeah.
I mean, because it really was. It was. I saw somebody post something the other day. They said, when we go out, or when my kids go out, it's like we've got our app activated, and we went out at this time, and you can follow us on GPS, and we'll be back by whatever time. And when I was a kid, he writes, the guy said, we would go out and say, "Hey, Mom, us and the kids, we're going to take our bikes out because we found a map to Killer's Cove, and we're going to go follow the river down to where it's at. We'll be back by when the street lights."
They didn't even tell you to bring sunscreen.
No.
They're like, "See ya, deuces. Good luck."
There wasn't even a thought, but then those cases, I think in particular, those 2 cases, I'm sure there were others, changed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it like going back now through, I like that you said 2021 vision, but going back and looking at some of these cases and like discovering stuff that one, people probably haven't heard of, but 2, that add different context to some of these cases?
To me, it's actually kind of a little depressing, especially when you see how people reacted at the time to certain things and how certain things weren't being taken seriously. Whereas nowadays you feel like, well, that would definitely be taken seriously. Like the case with Lisa McVeigh, I talked about that one this week. And when she first initially went into the police and said, like, I was kidnapped and I was assaulted by this man, like over and over and over again. And they were like, yeah, sure. Sure, Jan, whatever. And kind of dismissed her. And it's like, it's good now we have the society that we're in where we can kind of talk about things like that and kind of look and say, well, that was wrong. And like, what can we kind of fix with that? But it is crazy to like look back with the kind of culture that we have today, especially concerning assault and things like that. Yeah. And take that into account.
Well, even the Johnny Depp thing, I mean, that the instant assumption that she was the victim, right? It was just instantly assumed. That's it. We're not
and
even
now, and now what I get on that a lot is, well, it was a toxic relationship. And I'm like, that's not what we're talking about. It definitely was a toxic relationship.
That's a given. That was a toxic relationship. Right. I mean, obviously.
Toxic doesn't have to mean.
Right.
But who was the abuser is what we're talking about and what the courts are talking about, you know? So that is the problem. Who was physically abusive with who? And it's her. You can even hear her say that to him multiple times on recordings. So yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Another one of your Florida cases, Casey Anthony. Is another, what have you dug in on that?
So I just haven't, I haven't looked into her case in years. I just have an ex that I'm still friends with. And he actually, well, I mean, didn't all of Orlando date Casey Anthony at one point?
we can just now put a name to the face.
Yeah.
Oh, we can name one.
Her.
So so you had an ex.
I love murder.
Dated her?
Yes. Yeah. I had an ex that dated her very casually. All these people were like, I knew her boyfriend at the time. And I'm like, he's not a boyfriend. He's not boyfriend material. You know, he's the maintenance man. He just comes over.
He's the maintenance man.
He's Schneider. That's it. Everybody needs a Schneider.
Oh my gosh, he's the maintenance man. That's hilarious.
And I have so many people now in my comments that are like, he's the father. And I'm like, there are probably 50 men in Orlando that could be Kaylee Anthony's father. Like there's no way. He doesn't believe he is, but I do find it's a fascinating story. They were hooking up at the time that she did get pregnant. So that is fascinating. He did approach her about that. And she was like, oh no, it's just an ovarian cyst, which apparently she was telling all of her workplace.
Oh my God.
Crazy. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. That's just, so she never did identify who the dad was.
She never did. No.
If she knew. I mean,
yeah, if she knew, well, yeah, I don't think she did. I think she even said she did. She didn't, but like also she said a lot of things.
Yeah, she's not the most trustworthy person in the whole world.
When that whole thing was going down, when she took them on the tour at Disney, because she worked at Disney.
It was Universal.
Or Universal,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
It was Universal, yeah. So she, that was the crazy thing too. So she did work at Universal, but she worked at Universal in like 2004, 2006. But then in 2008, when the police were like, she was lying to police and she was lying to her parents. She kept saying every day she was going to work at Universal. She wasn't going to work at Universal.
No job. Yeah.
She was like, just, screwing around at home. So then she goes and she takes officers on a tour of her workplace at Universal that she hasn't worked at in over 2 years. Crazy.
Wow. She sounds like she's sane.
Right?
Right? Totally sane.
And now looking back again with the 2021 vision, you're like, why weren't like red flags just popping when just
All
this,
over.
I mean, seriously, because there had to have been people when she walked in the door and down the halls be like, why is she here?
Was that even okay? How long ago was this? 2000 what?
2008, I believe.
So is
She
that
went
kind of
to
really
the
before
tour.
like Twitter exploding, Instagram, everything? So now I think if it happened now, people
Right
would
at
be
the
like, wait,
precipice,
what's in Casey Anthony doing here? And they'd be tweeting pictures. So it was like
Yeah.
right
Twitter
at the
just
beginning
started.
of, so it's like not a lot of people were like going to Twitter for the news like we do now.
Everybody's on MySpace still. They were still debating MySpace and
What
Facebook.
song we're going to put on our profile page?
Changing their HTML code and stuff like that.
Adding the embedded player.
I don't have time to report news right now. I'm trying to figure out how to.
I want my background to be pink butterflies. Who's Casey Anthony?
That's right.
TBT.
Oh my gosh! So, and honestly, that wasn't that long ago when you think about it.
But how fast everything's changed.
How quickly.
It's insane.
I heard somebody talking too. This was another one of those aha moments for me because like in late, the news has reported like some words. The definitions of some words have changed, literally changed. When you go look them up online, you look up what the and some people have screenshots of what they used to say and then what it says now. And of course, Wikipedia is constantly evolving, right? And you go back in the day when they had what? Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
And you'd have a whole
salesman
set,
for that shit.
right?
Right.
26 books on a shelf, and you could grab the AB and pull it out and just like thumb
Nothing
through.
changed.
Nothing changed. So you could go back to an old set of Britannica and see what was written then compared to what was written now. Instead of erasing it, they just made a new edition. Now they just erase
deletes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty powerful and
It's
crazy.
pretty scary.
Yeah.
Because that means all the facts, everything is changed,
Can
and people,
change.
and you don't, you think you misremembered.
Right.
Yeah.
So history's gaslighting us, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Basically.
it is.
Or it's like the Mandela effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that whole conversation. That is like, and I'd never even thought about that before, just the misremembering of things and mass memory. And everybody's like, no, that's not how that was spelled.
Yeah.
That's not what they had on.
Well, and even I recently, for whatever reason, I think Casey Anthony was back in the news or something, but I went back and like found the timeline and I was like, I did not remember this at all.
yeah.
Right? Right. What happened?
What? She did this? This is absolutely bonkers.
This is insane. How did this not cause them to just say, okay, let's
Right.
just stop.
Right.
Yeah.
This is done. Oh my God. All right. So what else is on your radar right now? Is there anything that you're kind of digging into?
I have been looking at, I kind of did a deep dive this week back on the Maddie Clifton case, just because that case interests me
Explain that just a
so
little
much.
bit too. Explain that. Just a little.
Yeah, so that's kind of the case that like got my following. Basically, as I told you all, I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, and just 20 minutes down the road from me was a girl, Maddie Clifton. I fortunately or unfortunately did not know her, but all of Jacksonville knew her in 1998 because she went missing in her neighborhood and nobody knew where she was. And for about a week, all of Jacksonville came together. And what's so sad is it's really close to what is happening in Jacksonville right now in St. Johns County with the case of Tristan Bailey, who was just murdered by Aiden Fucci, who's a 14-year-old boy.
Oh my God.
And this was also a 14-year-old boy. It turned out she had been under the water bed.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yes.
Yes.
Her 14-year-old neighbor the whole time, and he'd been sleeping over her body.
Yes, I remember
for
that.
6 days. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That's unbelievable. Just
I've
crazy.
never heard this story
I think
before.
it was like a Dateline or 2020. They covered that on something. But yeah, I remember that. It was just absolutely
Yeah.
disgusting.
Okay, now I need to go back to how far do I have to scroll?
So now TikTok has made this wonderful thing where they have playlists at the top. So I did make a Maddie Clifton playlist.
Yay!
The
Thank
JT
you.
shortcuts at the
Yes,
top.
thank you. I appreciate that. So you're taking another look at that a little bit and just kind of
Yeah,
digging around.
because so I had actually woken up the morning after I made a video about it, and I didn't think anyone would honestly care because at the time I was talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. That's what I had my following with, so I didn't know if anyone would care about a true crime case. And everybody cared. I woke up to like millions of views. It was crazy. It now has like 16 million views. It's really nuts. And everyone was like, we need part 2 now. So I got up and like, I made a part. I was just like, I just woke up. It's 4 a.m. Like I'm getting showered. Let me just look at it again because I hadn't looked at this case since I was like 7 years old when Maddie had gone missing, and Maddie was only 8 years old. So I was like, I need to, refresh myself on what happened. And so I then made, a bunch of parts for them, but it was really crazy because, I didn't have enough time to do enough research on it to actually present the case well. So I kind of want to just revisit it and present it in a format that is much better than me just trying to pull pieces of the story together quickly.
Well, you've changed. You've grown. I mean, your style is emerging. It's like you've kind of honed your craft, so to speak, and the whole videos, they're done so well. Is there like a method to your madness? Like, do you have a wall with all the stuff posted all across the wall? And I imagine the strings, and I imagine the push pins and notes.
Charlie from It's Always Sunny in the mailroom.
Yes, little sticky notes and all this other stuff.
Filled up ashtrays all over the place. Cigarettes with cherries on them. That's how I picture it.
Wine.
Yes.
Bottles of wine everywhere. It's like, what's your method like?
So I don't have something that dramatic. I just have a calendar up.
just an Outlook calendar.
Okay, we need to work on this story. Okay, I want
to. But yeah, so I just kind of like try to look at the case and see honestly if there's anything new we can pull from it. And always in the end, I like to have like a call to action, something that we can do that betters our community, betters ourselves, helps others. I have noticed, and TikTok is really limiting my views when it comes to the Indigenous people content I put out. I've noticed that because I have been talking a lot about what's going on to our Indigenous community, especially with the 215 bodies that have been found in Canada.
Back up.
Whoa. So
what?
There was a mass unmarked grave found in British Columbia, Canada at a residential school being a very loose term because these kids basically back in the day, and these schools were open in Canada up to 97, but this is going on in the United States as well. These schools were a way for the government to strip the Indigenous people, the government and the church. I shouldn't leave the church out because the church had a bit to do with it as well, to strip the Indigenous people of their culture. They were trying to assimilate them into Western culture. Basically, they kidnapped children from their families, literally from their parents' arms, and brought them to these schools. And they were not allowed to speak their language. They were stripped of their clothing. They were stripped of their hair. They were stripped of everything that made them a part of their culture. And they were, the punishments for if they acted out in any way, even speaking their own language, was astronomical. And of course, there was all kinds of abuse going on in those schools, sexual, physical, horrible things. And now we're finding out even murder, quite possibly, because how does 215 kids die? Right. And they already did have records of children that had died. So it really does. Those kids were in unmarked graves. They're finding more bodies right now. The Catholic Church hasn't even issued an apology concerning the Kamloops school.
Let me ask you something. Is this connected to any stories that are from Europe as well?
Honestly, the Irish, I haven't looked at that since I was in school, but they used to do the unwed mothers. They would send them to those homes.
I've seen there's conspiracy theories about this very thing, and they talk about these supposed mass graves that are at schools. And they're mostly children. And I'd not heard of them here, but then again, I'm thinking I have, and I'm like, wait a minute, because I think it's one of those things where I saw it, but I didn't look into it, and so you kind of have this half a memory.
That's insane.
That is
it's
horrifying. And it started. Do you know how far back that goes? Like that school in British Columbia?
Like the 18. I don't know about that school in particular. Kamloops School is the one that where they found all those bodies last month. But it's been going on since about the 1850s, I believe, and up until 97, like 1997, like that, which is
over
crazy.
100 years.
But what I think is crazy is I've done 2 stories in the past week on Indigenous people. One about a woman that's missing in Alaska, Tracy Lynn Day, and another about what happened at the Kamloops school. And you can look at my TikTok profile and like my video on Elvis Presley, my video on anyone that's white gets like 50 to over 400,000 views. Kim Kardashian has 2.4 views, but I start talking about Indigenous people And I have like on some of Tracy's videos, only 5,000 views. It's absolutely,
That's
it's
weird.
like conspiracy theory, but like it is strange that those views are the ones being limited and they're the ones that need to be heard.
I mean, it doesn't seem like a conspiracy theory if it's like actually factually happening to you right now.
Right?
That's,
And why would those not? Because you can't tell me that people aren't interested in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
No, you can't tell me.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even the Lisa McVeigh case, like that wasn't even a high profile case. So because you could say like, well, with Elvis Presley, of course, that's going to get a lot of views. He was a high profile person. But with like the Lisa McVeigh case, how come hers has almost like 500K views, but like the Kamloops school has like what, 15K? It's crazy. It's weird.
That's very weird.
Okay. Now we got to go back to Elvis for a second. Have you found anything that nobody else has? Have you found anything that nobody else has?
What was that? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Have you found out anything that nobody else has?
I don't think
or that
so.
surprises you?
I think everybody knows he's he was the way he was, right?
But there's a lot to that story though. It's kind of interesting because I think a lot.
Are you
of
in the
people,
camp that think he lives in a trailer still down in the South?
I wish he was. I wish he did, but no, I don't.
That's not a denial. Okay, it was a denial.
It's
I'm
a
like, wait,
denial.
you're skirting around the question.
No, I don't. But I would love it. I would, but no, of course, there's no way he could because he likes the attention too much. There's no way that Elvis just went to a campground in Arkansas. There's no way that he is. But just his whole background story, when you start digging into his parents and what they were like and losing his twin and what that was like and all that other stuff that fed into him and the insecurity that he went through as a performer and then having to go into the service at the height of his career and trying to come back and redo it. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well, too, like Colonel Tom Parker, that horrible man that had a hold of his career, right? Not saying that Elvis was a great guy. Obviously he dated a 14-year-old when he was 24. So that's
with their parents' permission, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But Colonel Tom Parker was like, a lot of people don't know, but he was an illegal immigrant and I can't remember where he was from, but to America. And so he never let Elvis do any tours overseas or anything because he was scared he wouldn't be able to get back in this country.
I do remember hearing that. Yes, totally forgot about that little fact. There are just so many things that you're like, oh my God, I never even thought about that. He never left the country. Why? That's why. Insane.
So I have to look into Elvis now.
Now, right? I got
he had a twin?
Oh my God.
Right. You're still at the beginning of this story. Wait, what? He had a twin?
Hold on. I'm trying to catch up.
And wasn't his twin's name Aaron Elvis?
Yeah, I think
Elvis,
so.
Aaron, and Aaron
Elvis,
Elvis.
Aaron Presley before his twin, right? Because his twin passed, right?
His twin passed pretty much at birth, I think. Aaron Elvis.
Yeah,
But
I think
Elvis,
so.
Aaron, and Aaron Elvis. But that all played into this crazy story.
Wow.
About which is nuts.
Wait, what? He had a twin?
Taking a deep dive, I guess.
Today's gone.
Oh my God.
Okay, so Danielle, quick question. All this research you've done and all these true crime stories, current crime stories, what are your top 3 ways to get away with murder? Like if you wanted to get away with murder, like what over what you've looked at, what's the best? Asking for a friend.
Kill someone you have no connection to. I don't know why
Right?
you would do that, but don't know them at all.
My
That's
favorite
gotta
is
be
on
the
these
best.
stories like on Dateline in 2020 when you see like it goes through the whole 43 minutes of the story, right? And at the very end they're like, well, we did see video of the wife at Walmart that day buying gloves and bleach and a tarp. It's like,
The whole time you know that it's probably the wife or the husband.
Right.
Or, it's not
Always.
someone's aunt.
right, exactly. And they're like, and then they pay with a card.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, help. And I love the people that Google how to murder somebody or like how to hide a body in southern Mississippi. It's like, well,
Right.
dude, go to your Google
Pretty
history.
specific.
Right.
Or about poison.
Right.
Yeah.
How to poison Randy without anybody knowing. Wait a second. What?
What poison disappears in the system after 24 hours?
I've watched enough Dateline. I actually know the answer to that.
I'll text Brian later. I didn't know anything. I didn't know that. Was it eardrops or eye drops can poison people?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
What?
Yeah.
Eye drops.
Yeah. Like
Crazy.
legit.
Has no one seen Wedding Crashers?
Oh, it's
Gives
been
the
a minute.
guy the shits because he
That's-
puts eye drops in his.
That's right.
That's right. I forgot about
but,
that.
But you don't think of that as a source for info.
Right.
But I'm
Wedding crashers, yeah.
just saying.
We cite wedding crashes as our murder research. Okay, so just somebody you're not connected with. Okay.
Okay, that comes down to that
basically
because
it.
I think you pretty much determined that Nebraska has a ton of places where you can hide a body.
Yeah.
Oh, Omaha alone.
Omaha does too, and you get out west or Kansas,
Right, and there are a ton. Like, you don't have to work that hard if you're going to kill somebody to hide their body, just anywhere really. But these people that like kick it off in a park, it's like it's laying right by the bathroom. You know, like try a little harder.
A little more thought.
If you're going to
into
kill
it.
somebody, go all the way, man.
I guess maybe it was more spontaneous, not as pre-planned, as
Right.
premeditated.
That's
right?
true.
That takes a lot, because that takes a special kind of person
Yeah.
To premeditate.
Oh, I don't know about that. I know a lot of people that have already premeditated
What's the
a
name
lot
of that guy that killed his wife and his children and put them in like
guy in
oil-
Colorado.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
oil barrels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like that
Oh,
was
was it Will?
premeditated.
Yeah, oil barrels. Chris
Yeah.
Watts.
Yeah.
Chris Watts.
Crazy.
Wow, that dude's.
Okay, do you ever have nightmares?
No, not really. I get scared though sometimes that like if I hear a bump outside or something, I'm like, oh no, it's happening. They've come for me.
I'm soon going to be the topic of a TikTok.
No! Has anybody
True crime TikToker.
has anybody ever sent you a message claiming they know more
Yeah.
information on the crime that you're
Yes.
researching? Yeah.
Yes. And I had one person reach out to me and tell me not to do the John Benet Ramsey case because
What?
she knows Burke Ramsey and he wants to put it behind.
Wow, that's
And
weird.
I was like, sure, Jan. I'm sure you do. I entertained her for a little bit. I was like, okay, well, if you can get Burke the journalist of me,
Yeah.
if you can get Burke in contact with me, I would love to talk to him. No, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Oh my God. That's a whole nother one too. That one I'm going to, I've read so many like conspiracy theory type portrayals of this whole murder mystery
Yeah.
and the mystery around it. And then there's all the other stuff that goes around her parents. And I mean,
It's too weird. You
Crazy.
cannot tell
Yeah.
me it wasn't someone in that house. You cannot tell me it wasn't someone in that house.
and then you have somebody telling you not to do something is just like
Yeah.
begging you to do it
That's
harder.
like a red flag. Like,
Yeah.
It's not even a red flag. It's a giant arrow. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
don't
dig
look at
here.
this guy right here.
Definitely wasn't Burke.
Interesting. That would freak me out though, to get notes like that from
Right?
somebody who
Yeah.
who's familiar with the case.
Or
Yeah.
like, well, I thought you were going to ask her if you've ever been like threatened, like don't do this case
Oh, yeah.
or don't look into this further or anything like that.
Right,
That would
right.
freak me out.
Yeah, no, not yet. Just John Benet.
Just John
that's such a
Benet.
Random high profile case for you to reach out to me about too. I mean, obviously I'm going to talk about John Benet Ramsey one day.
Well, it's weird to me is that these really super high profile cases that didn't get solved because of the mess ups. And
Yes.
the OJ comes to mind, the way that was all handled, regardless of the outcome, just the way it was handled. And John Benet Ramsey, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And some of the oddities that go along with that one. And Casey Anthony is another one, is like, come on, and it's like, this is modern day. It's not like they didn't have protocol.
Right.
Yeah.
And they just
Or when you see a case where there's evidence in the evidence room that wasn't tested for DNA for
Or
no
just
reason,
straight up disappears.
or it's just gone. Right.
Or not tested for years and years and years, and they killed like 50 more people in the,
Yeah.
in the time frame. Of
And the
them
police say
running.
they're the ones that say don't test it. Like, well, why would you not test it? The answer was right there on that whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with Paul Bernardo, that Canadian serial killer who killed people with his wife, Carla. They had his DNA for years, but he seemed like such a nice guy. They didn't feel like they needed to
He's
run
a nice guy.
He's a
He'd
nice
never
guy.
murder anyone.
Yeah.
Right?
What?
That's so weird.
It just flies right in
Typically,
the
serial
face.
killers are the most normal freaking people on the outside.
That's how they get
That's
close to
how they
people.
do it.
Exactly.
Right. That's how they gain your trust, and then they.
Ted Bundy.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, and the whole Versace story is another one.
Yeah.
That is just fascinating too. That Kuhneman, was that his name? Kuhneman?
Oh,
The guy that killed him.
I can't
That
remember.
whole thing and his just the story of how he ended up at Versace's house.
Crazy.
And you're
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, it makes no sense. But anyway, oh my God, Danielle, so much stuff.
Yeah.
I want
We
to
have
ask,
a lot of stuff to research
I know
today.
we really
Yes.
do, and we want to have you back on.
Yeah.
if you're good with that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And we'll just kind of see what you're looking into and what's popping on your TikTok.
Yeah.
And would love to, spread the word. I mean, granted, we would love to be on your TikTok, to be honest.
I don't know. Are you sure you want to? Because that's like
not
people
as a story,
people that get
not as a
murdered
story,
around her. Okay.
But more as a.
Wait a second.
I'd like you to say hi. These are my new friends, Pat and JT.
Don't kill them.
Don't kill them. but really, I think that for our little community that we have, this is the kind of stuff that we all talk about. And we love talking about conspiracy theories, and we love talking about just kind of digging into it a little bit further. But this has been awesome.
Where do people find you on TikTok again? Danielle, what is it?
Yeah, so Spirit of Danny or at Dell'Olio D.
Spell that last name.
Yeah, it's DELLOLIOD.
And what does that mean?
That's my last name, first initial. So very original.
Yeah. Yeah. No, your name, but your last name means of oil.
Oh yeah, it's of oil. It's Italian. Yeah, it's of oil. And I actually, so I've been working at Disney World for like the past 4 years since moving down here.
Which is so weird because she studies murder and she's in Disney.
But I checked these people in, and their last name was Olio. So I must have been of them because they are the oil. So I'm of the oil. So interesting. Oil. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. Danny, thank you so much for being on with us.
Thank you so much, Jill. Thank you, Pat, for having me.
You got it. Thanks,
We
Danielle.
will talk to you again soon.
All right. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye. And you can also,
this is awesome.
in our description of our podcast, we'll link to all Danielle's stuff, too.
Yeah.
So go to It's Pat and JT on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Hurrdat Media Production.